Welcome to the Take a Seat podcast with Clinton and
Mario.
and today we're actually going to be talking about this conversation that I had with this guy. I guess to give a little bit of a backstory, this guy, he was an attorney making $300,000 a year, and he was diagnosed with a disease which makes him 1 in 30,000 people in the world. This disease actually makes him not have the ability to gain muscle, and his stomach is swollen, kind of like when you see like those videos of Ethiopian children,
Oh,
and
wow.
his arms are extremely skinny because he
Damn.
can't gain muscle. And yeah, man, I was talking to him, and I spent an hour talking with the guy because whenever if somebody's married for a long time,
Mm.
or if somebody has overcome some sort of great obstacle in life, or is just out of the ordinary, I like to gain wisdom from them
Mm.
and see if they've gained wisdom, because sometimes people can grow bitter and resentful whenever trials come their way. Not everybody handles it well, but this guy, he handled it really well, or is handling it really well. His doctor gave him 90 days to live,
Oh, geez.
and he was ecstatic to hear that news because his suffering wouldn't be that long.
Yeah. Wow.
So I asked him, I was like, so knowing that you have 90 days to live, do you have any regrets about life? Is there anything that you would have done differently? And he told me he didn't have any regrets. I think the only thing that he said that he would have done differently is actually saved a lot more money, because currently he's basically alone. I mean, he has his children, but
They're living their own lives and
yeah,
stuff.
and I don't even think they live in the same state.
Oh, man.
So he has to pay for Uber to pick him up and take him to the hospital. And those Uber trips rack up quickly, as well as all of the medical expenses that he has to pay. So his advice was just save as much as you can and live below your means. Keep your living to a minimum if you can. But I asked him, I was like, so do you have any advice or any wisdom that you can share? And this was actually over a phone call that I had this conversation.
Wow.
So while he was on the phone call with me, I ended up writing down notes of everything that he had said.
Mm.
And some of them are, well, one of them in particular I thought was funny. The funny thing that he said to me was, if you ever see an old person in the produce section in a grocery store, don't make eye contact with them.
Why?
And that's what I said. I was like, why? I was like, why would I not make eye contact with them? He's like, because you'll save at least 2 hours of your life and be able to get more done in the day if you don't make eye contact with them, because they have nobody to talk to and they're going to reel you into a long conversation. I was like, wow.
That's
But he was
funny.
dead serious. Like, I know
Yeah.
it sounds like a joke, but he was dead serious.
Yeah.
Because he says basically one of the things that he gave as advice is set a schedule and stick to it, even on weekends. Make a schedule, plan things out, plan out your week, and stick to that schedule. And the reason is which is funny because this is actually something that Jordan Peterson says as well. Because I listen to Jordan Peterson a lot, and he said the importance of setting a schedule, which is exactly like what Jordan Peterson said, is setting a schedule. People will look at a schedule as something that is restrictive.
Yeah.
And that'll prevent them from setting a schedule because they'll think, oh man, I have to stick to this schedule and I'm not able to do the things that I want to do because this schedule is restricting me from doing what I want to do. But he says, actually, that's the whole point of having the schedule in the first place, is so that you can actually do everything that you want to do.
Yeah.
Because you're planning it out and you're setting time constraints for different things within your life, so you actually accomplish more. When it comes to goals, of course you're going to accomplish more, but also like when it comes to just personal goals, like things that you want to do, I don't know, whatever that is, whatever that is. And I was like, okay, I thought that was really cool. But yeah, I wrote down some of the advice that he gave, and so the guy actually, let me continue with a little bit of his backstory. So his son is special needs, so that's another reason why he can't even care for his son. He has to pay somebody to care for his son. He, of course, his advice is going to be don't take your health for granted, which, I mean, you wouldn't not expect that from somebody in his particular situation. And one of the things that he said is he regrets spending money on alcohol when going to bars. He's like, you're paying like $10 a glass at a minimum, and he's like, if you were to save up all of that money throughout the year, that's a vacation that you can take at the end of the year.
That's true.
Yeah. It's like every weekend or every 2 days in a week, you're spending that much money when you could have saved that up and you could actually take a really decent vacation.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, yeah, that's on point. He said travel as much as you can, which is funny because I actually hear that a lot from a lot of older people.
Yeah.
Everybody tells me to travel, and I don't really care about traveling. I don't get a lot out of travel, but I do look forward to traveling when I'm married. And then people are like, no, dude, don't wait until you're married to travel. Like, this is your opportunity to travel now. But I don't know. I'm not a big travel guy. He said,
have you ever traveled? Like, have you just...
Yeah. I went to Cozumel, different parts of Mexico. I've traveled to Washington, D.C., Florida, Louisiana. I've been to different states.
Oh, so you haven't like just
out of the
left
country.
Texas?
Yeah, no, I haven't just not left Texas. So like I've traveled, but I haven't traveled out of the country other than Mexico. But I don't know, dude. Traveling just doesn't really interest me that much. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Scenery doesn't really do it for me. I can't really. People are the most important thing to me. So if there's a language barrier, I'm not really going to get much out of conversation and have a meaningful, fulfilling conversation with somebody because there's a language barrier. But yeah, he something that he gave that I thought was really good advice was he's like, he's not just talking about in relationships, but it was definitely regarding relationships is if you come to a problem in your life, tackle it head on. Don't postpone taking care of that problem.
Yeah.
Especially like in a relationship, because sometimes like in relationships, you'll want to put it off in hopes that you kind of sweep it under the rug through time. But he was like, just address it as soon as it presents itself, because that's less time that you'll have with that problem.
That's true.
And
I see that.
Yeah. So I really that really hits me because I can sometimes be avoidant of addressing certain problems in my life, and yeah, that's really good. Is just face it, and I mean it's great because you also build courage, and
Yeah.
then through building courage, you're kind of redefining who you are,
Great.
because you'll. So I don't know who I was telling this, but it's like if you know that you're supposed to do something and then fear comes in, what I've been doing in those fearful situations, if I know that it's actually something that I should do, is I've been conditioning myself to just do it. And the reason is because I had watched a video about reprogramming your subconscious mind, and that video was basically saying, like, when you tackle these problems head on and you don't allow that fear to hold you back from doing what you know that you should do,
Yeah.
every single time that you choose to do the right thing in that situation, your subconscious mind stores that, or your mind in general, your mind stores that information and says, okay, this time I did the harder thing to do.
Yeah.
And then you do it again, and it's like, okay, that time I did the harder thing to do. And then over time, whenever a difficult situation presents itself, you have all of these instances of when you've chosen courage over fear, and you're now naturally redefining yourself as a courageous person who doesn't let fear stop them from doing what they need to do.
Yeah.
So that's really that was significant to me. He said he said that one thing that people should do is if they have an illness that for some reason their general doctor can't really figure out the first time, he says to get with a geneticist to look through the genes of basically like your gene history, because he went to, I think it was like 9 doctors.
Wow.
And none of them, like they all treated him with something, and they all always kept prescribing him a different medication for what they thought it was. But they didn't know that he was one of 30,000 people on the planet that has this disease, right? Until he went to a geneticist, and that geneticist looked in his I guess genetic makeup,
Yeah.
and found that his ancestors actually have had this. He had like I think it was like a great grandmother or something like that had the same disease, and it was through the geneticist that he was actually able to, I guess, get some sort of help.
Yeah. Identify it. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing is he said he said that basically, like, money's important. And I know that this is like such a cliche statement, but money's not everything, because he was making 300,000 a year, right?
Wow.
But he had friends who were making $10 million a year, and one friend in particular ended up dying of a heart attack, and it's like none of that money mattered to that person anymore. It's like he acquired all of this wealth, and then at the end of his life, he has nothing to show for it. You know, and he lived his whole life with stress because of him trying to gain wealth and then maintain what he's gained.
Yeah.
Right. But it's just a good refresher of, like, because I know I definitely can fall into the I don't want to say trap, but I can fall into this mentality of, man, I need more, and it's like, actually, okay, I watched a video, and this guy was basically talking about the importance of cherishing what you have. He's like, imagine that you have an unlimited supply of raspberries, and raspberries are your favorite fruit, okay? You have an unlimited supply of raspberries. How are you going to go about eating those raspberries? Most likely, you're going to be tearing through these raspberries. You're going to be popping them back to back because you know you have an unlimited supply. You're not going to ever run out of raspberries. And then raspberries eventually get dull to you. But now he's like, let's say that raspberries go extinct and you have the world's last raspberry. How are you going to treat that last raspberry? He's like, you're probably just going to nibble on it. You may lick it. You may smell it, feel the texture of it. And you're going to do your best to fully enjoy that one raspberry that you have.
Yeah.
And the whole moral behind that is what you currently have is that last raspberry. Treat what you have as though it's sacred and as though it's valuable. Because if you're looking at what you don't have, you're by default in a state of lack. But when you look at what you have and don't focus on what you don't have, you're in a state of abundance. It's like having that one last raspberry. You don't care about any other fruits at that point when you're having the last raspberry on the planet and it's your favorite fruit. Even if it's not your favorite fruit, you're going to still treat that raspberry as though it's the greatest thing on the planet because you're the only one that has it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like,
I get it.
It's like, you're the only Mario that I have, you know? I have.
You lick me or?
Well, maybe after the podcast, we'll see. But it's like, my mother is the only mother that I have.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have a lot of things that are worthy of taking the time out and just realizing that what I have is special.
Yeah.
And it's one of a kind. And the moment that I have right now is the only thing that's promised to me.
Yeah.
Because we could die from a brain aneurysm in our sleep tonight.
Yep.
And not wake up in the morning.
That's right.
And it's like, did we actually cherish the day that we were given? And like right now, he's actually happy. Even though he's going through a lot of suffering, he's happy because he's cherishing the raspberry that he has right now. His family means more to him than they ever have. And essentially, like he was saying, like all of the money that he's gained is incomparable to the relationships that he has.
Yeah.
And I mean, this dude had literally everything. He was flying on private jets. He had gorgeous women. He was living the lifestyle that I think what's popularized in media as what men should want.
Yeah.
He had. And it's like at the end of the day, we all have something right under our noses that we can be treating like it's special. And yeah, man, that was powerful. Him talking about his family and not taking time for granted. The last thing he recommended was get a credit card that has like those affiliation points with the airline. You know, like how whenever you spend for every dollar,
miles or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, you get airplane mileage, because it adds up, and then you can take trips to experience the world. He said to basically celebrate the differences with people instead of criticizing people for their differences. Celebrate the differences and actually try to understand and learn from the differences. Because there's something that you can learn from all of the differences of people.
Yeah.
Even the differences that are like, look at Hitler, for instance. It's like, as wicked as the man may have been, we've learned a lot through his life and the way that he chose to rule. And whenever we see anything similar to that, we automatically are on high alert. It's like, oh, no. He's the next Hitler. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, that conversation was powerful. And I think what was even more powerful was that he was so appreciative of having somebody who he could talk to for an hour and give like his wisdom to, his life experience to.
Yeah.
Because he's cooped up in the house all day long, right?
Oh wow.
Yeah, like he's not going anywhere. And it's like I think that most people, when they see people, if you saw somebody with a swollen stomach and skinny arms and is barely hanging on, it's like the last thing on, like, let me speak for myself. For myself, I will immediately feel uncomfortable. Like, I don't even know how to behave toward that person. It's like, do I treat them extremely kind? Do I treat them regular? If I treat them extremely kind, then it's like,
am I cut them off the wrong way or something like that?
It's like if you treat them super, super nice, it almost is like, dude, I'm not a child.
Yeah, like pandering.
It's like,
yeah,
it's like as an old man, like there's some old men that it's like, oh, do you want me to lift that up for you? It's like, dang, you're taking away my manhood in a way, right? Like that pride of feeling like you're still capable and competent. And then it's like, if you treat them regular, it's like, well, isn't the goal to make sure that their experience on this life is a little bit less terrible, since they're obviously having a worse experience in life than what we have, where we have the ability to just walk out of the house and do whatever it is that we want, whereas like he's in a wheelchair, can't really do anything, he can't drive. It's like we can do whatever we want, you know, for the most part. And yeah, man, so like I'll feel uncomfortable, and I'm not going to say my friend's name, but I have a friend who's really close to me, and his sister has cerebral palsy. And at one point in time, we were a part of a church where we would go to nursing homes and just go and just try to make people's day. We would read with them, we would pray with them. Sometimes we would just talk with them. The church would sing for them and stuff like that. And he was so good at communicating with them and treating them well without demeaning them. And I was so uncomfortable because I don't have the experience of dealing with somebody that has mental illness or physical disabilities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
I can see that.
You know what I mean? It's like, how do I even approach this situation?
Yeah.
And it's like, there's a lot of people that in his situation, it's like not many people are going to come up to him and actually ask him, hey, so what have you learned? Or like, what is your life really like? Or how are you really? You know, like people don't really, they may actually care, but not know how to show care. You know, and honestly, if I saw him in person, I don't think I would have been able to have the conversation that I had with him. But because it was over the phone and he talked normal, I didn't know that he had this rare disease, and I didn't know because I wasn't able to see him. And then he brought it up in conversation, and I mean, he was sound of mind. Like he wasn't lacking intelligence at all. He was clearly intelligent. And I mean, for him making $300K a year as an attorney, dealing with oil and gas cases and corporate cases and different civil cases, like you have to have a certain level of intelligence in order to maintain that type of career.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like it felt good because I could tell that his day was better. He didn't want to get off the phone. The only thing that made us get off the phone was the fact that we were about to close and he had to call a different office before they closed. Oh, wow. So yeah, man, that was it. But it was powerful, dude.
So yeah, I can tell this is very compelling information for you. And it's you know, certain points and certain notes that you have tie into previous conversations that we've had on this podcast. But I feel like the information that you have now has a different impact now than it did when you and I had our conversations with our perspectives weeks prior.
Mm-hmm.
with that being said, short term, what do you think is something that you're going to change about yourself or your life, right? Based on the information that you have now after speaking with this gentleman?
I think I'm trying to discipline myself to focus on what I have and not what I perceive to be lack.
Yeah.
Because yeah, man, I'm single and I'm picky, and it's like I'm constantly when I have something good, I'm thinking I could probably do better. And then when I have something that appears to be slightly unattainable, it's like I'm back on the hunt and I feel like I have to obtain this thing. I'm really driven by the chase of anything, man. Like, in a way, it's good because it keeps me always wanting to go after more.
Yeah.
But it's like I was it's like I was telling you, dude, like in the book of Proverbs. No. It's actually the book of I don't know. It's either book of Proverbs or Ecclesiastes in the Bible. It was written by the same guy. His name is Solomon, and Solomon talks about life, and he talks about the meaningless of life and how
Ecclesiastes.
It's a chasing after the wind.
Yeah.
And it's like you spend your time chasing after the wind, and whatever that is, it could be $1 million, it could be the perfect partner, it could be whatever it is, and it's like you're chasing after that, but you never catch the wind.
Yeah.
Like it's impossible to catch the wind, and I've identified so closely with that because that's naturally me, man. Like I'm always chasing something, and I'm not enjoying the strawberry that I have and treating it as though it's the last one I'll ever have. And I don't treat my relationships as though this is the last day that I'm spending with them. People say like, people will have these like cliche type of statements of like, oh, live today like it's your last day. And what people often mean whenever they say that is like, go out and party hard, you know? Yeah. But it's like, if it's really your last day, if partying is really the last thing you want to do before you die, in my opinion, you're living a very meaningless life.
Yeah.
And you don't have a lot that is meaningful to you. If it's my last day, I plan on spending it with loved ones.
Yeah, family.
And really making the most of the time that I have with them. And possibly even sharing things with them that I otherwise wouldn't have. Maybe being more vulnerable and really expressing my love to them in a way that I previously wouldn't have, because it's like, that I don't want to make it weird or whatever it is, right? But it's like, yeah, man, I would like to, I guess, deprogram myself to feeling like I have to have more, and just really enjoy the moment that I do have and what I do have. Like, and stop comparing myself to people who seemingly have something better than I have.
Yeah.
Because we live in a country where we have running water. It doesn't matter whether it's dark outside. We have light bulbs that illuminate our whole house so we can still stay awake. Most of us in this country are not having to go out and hunt for our food. We don't have to go and grow our own crops. Like, we just go to the grocery store, pick it up, and then go eat, or go out to a restaurant and just go eat. Like, we have so much luxury, and we're driving these works of art, whereas people are literally walking everywhere. They'll walk to go get water. They walk everywhere, and it's like we're extremely rich, but because we compare ourselves to other people in a rich country, we'll feel like we don't have enough, instead of looking at it as we're the 1% of the world. We, like, the wealth that we have in this country is the 1% of the world. Most countries are experiencing far greater levels of poverty than we could imagine, and we're very much spoiled in a lot of ways. Like, we don't have to worry about shelter, most of us, and like we have electricity. It's remarkable, dude. Like, the technology that we have. We may complain about how slow our computer is, but it's like we're complaining about how slow a computer is. We have computers. Like, we'll complain about the lines in airports, but it's like you get to soar through the sky like a bird on a plane that's made out of metal. It's like, that's a freaking miracle, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be more appreciative. That's it.
You know, I always try to instill the idea of like pushing, moving forward, and you know, aspire to be the best you, et cetera, et cetera. And I live by that. I've motivated people, even my girlfriend, to like, you know, do the best you can and, you know, go for it. Why not? And she recently got a promotion, and I'm extremely happy for her. And, you know, initially she doubted herself, but the point is that I like that, right? And I like doing that for people because I believe that everyone, disabilities aside, is capable of accomplishing something, even if it's on a small scale, right? But I am constantly living with an existential, not crisis, but an existential idea where, then again, it's not crisis, but every day I wake up and I acknowledge the fact that I could die today. My existence is only meaningful to those that listen to this podcast, if they draw something from this conversation, and to my loved ones and the people that choose to call me friend. Which, in the bigger picture, you may think, right, like, oh, that's insignificant. So that's a reality that I live with. But to get myself out of that, because what can happen is you get caught up in that idea and it bleeds into your behavior, and you start thinking, well, what's the point of me doing this or working out or going to work, whatever the case may be. So what I do is I stop, right? And I think of where I am now, because I meditate, or at least I try to. And I started doing that like 3 years ago, and it quite literally changed my life. And I think to myself, where am I now? What do I have? Who am I with? I don't have everything the world thinks someone needs or should want, but all I want is what I need. What I have is all I need. What I have is a girlfriend that loves me, for now. What I have is a good circle of friends, small as it may be. They're all good people. I have relatives that are still alive. Talk to them here and there, but we're here. My dogs, my apartment, my car. I have a stable lifestyle. I'm not worrying about money the way I used to growing up. Like, it's not, hearing it, right, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's something that like I allow myself to smell the roses.
You do, dude.
You know,
You do.
because like if you're constantly pursuing everything else,
Yeah.
like that guy said,
Yeah.
you'll never truly appreciate what you have.
Yeah.
Until it's too late.
Yeah.
And then you get old, and then that's when you cherish everything that was right in front of you all along while you were on the chase.
Yeah.
And I understand, like, you know, the points. I really do, because I've thought that to myself. I, for a long time now, have told myself one reality, which is I will never be rich or famous.
Mm-hmm.
The moment you accept that is the moment you will enhance your level of happiness, because you will stop with an unrealistic expectation that comes from looking at social media and looking at celebrities, movies, where you're constantly thinking, one day I'll have a mansion, one day I'll have a Lamborghini. Like, no, wait a second. There's a cost to these visions.
Yeah.
You don't know what the cost is for a lot of these people. Even the people that are in those positions are sacrificing a lot, family time, which I think is probably the most valuable in hindsight, to achieve these certain things. So is that something I'm willing to sacrifice?
Right.
Currently, it's no.
Yeah.
Sure, it would be a nice commodity to have, I guess, a mansion or big house, not necessarily a mansion, a better car, $1 million a year, $300,000 a year. But I don't allow myself to get lost in, not aspiration, but get lost in the idea of wanting more. Because getting back to it, I have taught myself to appreciate what I have now.
Yeah.
If I want something more,
Yeah.
I develop a plan, know what I have to do, take those steps, hope to achieve my goal.
Yeah.
Whether it's fitness, financial, new job, school, etc., etc. A lot of things that I think we as humans overthink. If you literally just kind of sat your ass down for a second, plan some things out, and see if it'll work out that way just by doing it, I think you could really solve a lot of your own personal problems. Not you directly, I'm talking about in general. But we don't, because I think it's very common to lose yourself in ideas of aspirations or in aspiration. Right?
Agreed.
Which is fine. Again, you know, the humans, I think, have a natural instinct to want more. Cavemen wanted more meat, wanted more houses to build. Wanted more boulders to build more homes. Wanted more prizes. This concept goes back to the beginning of time. But it's what you do with this concept that I think will matter or bring more value to you. Right. So I understand, man.
Dude, you know, man, I gotta say, like, you are so good at smelling the roses that I don't think I've ever said this to you. I really don't think I've ever said this to you, but I'm saying it now. That there's been times where I'll look at your life and then the way you react to your life, and I'm like, dang. How is this dude so grateful? Like, when you were living in those apartments near downtown, like, they were kind of slummy, dude. But
yeah, they were.
But you did not look at it as slummy, and you didn't act. If you did, you sure didn't communicate that. And you'd be like, "Oh yeah, man, like I only pay this much for rent," and you were always like on the positive about everything about your apartment. Same thing with your vehicles, like. You've never been driving the nicest vehicle, but you were always really content with the vehicle that you were in. Like you've really found a lot of contentment with what you have, and that's something really admirable. Like, I don't know, do you know Cameron?
Jeep?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Cameron.
Yeah.
One of the most admirable things about Cameron, dude, is he had a 1994 Jeep Grand Cherokee, right? And this dude would brag about his Jeep Grand Cherokee. Like he was driving a Lamborghini, a Rolls Royce, like he was bragging about his vehicle like it was so awesome. And the thing is like, at first I was like, man, this dude is tripping. He's driving a beater.
Yeah.
This vehicle sucks. Why does he love his vehicle so much? But then over time, like he would get in the car, right? And I remember this one time, it was me, Anthony, and Cameron.
Yeah.
And Cameron, he had just gotten a new exhaust on his car. Or on his Jeep. So the Jeep sounded a lot louder, right? Yeah. And he has the door fully open. He's standing outside of the Jeep and just one leg inside of the Jeep, and he's mashing on the gas pedal while it's in park, right? Yeah. So all you hear is yeah. And look, this Jeep is not that loud. It's really not that loud. But he's out the side of his Jeep mashing on the gas pedal, screaming, "It's so loud! It's so loud!" Like full of joy. Yeah. Over his exhaust that he had, right? Yeah. And I'm like, this dude has so much joy. It was attractive. It was attractive seeing him have so much gratitude for what he had that it made me check myself. And I would look at myself and I'd be like, dang, dude, like you still have a nicer vehicle than what he has, and you aren't appreciating it as much as he's appreciating his piece of junk. Yeah. You know, and it's like, dang, like it says a lot about him, man. And it says a lot about me as well in a negative sense. Like, and I still struggle with it. I'm not going to act like I got that problem under wraps, but I'm like, dang, like that's something that I've admired about you and him. Like y'all are really able to just keep it in have a good perspective of where you're at and appreciate where you're at, because I'm always comparing myself to my ideal, and it makes me hungry for more, and it makes me feel unsatisfied, like I don't have enough. And of course you know this, but like my goal is to be able to provide for my wife. I want to be able to provide for her to the point where she doesn't have to work. If she chooses to work, then cool. But I want her to be satisfied and content knowing that she doesn't have to work. And when I look at my life currently, I'm like, I'm not financially where I would like to be for me to have a wife and her to just be home and choose to take care of the kids or choose to follow whatever passions she has, whether that's art or whether that's music or whether that's reading. Like her having freedom, that I want to provide freedom for her, and me take on the responsibility of work. And like that like in a way it's like, oh well, that's really a good thing. Yeah, that I want that for another human being. But then it's like what comes along with that is that comparison of, well, in order to have that, I have to be making this much money. And it's like, I'll stress myself out over that. I'm like, okay, like I'm not where I need to be in order to have her completely comfortable. But yeah,
you know, thank you. First and foremost, let me address that. Thank you for the commendation. But, no, not but. I just want to say, though, appreciating something, right, doesn't mean that I didn't acknowledge the reality of it. Though I live downtown in a really nice area, I understood that, like, I didn't have the best apartment and all that. Like, I knew that. Yeah. And I wanted more, and I did better for myself, right? Yeah. But I'm not trying to make this about me. I'm just setting myself as the example just to, I guess, set the point. Yeah. When I was going through my personal renaissance, I had no guide, nobody My sisters were a reference point for, advice on how to handle certain emotional situations. But I didn't really dive in too deep with them in like dating or like positivity or like how to drag myself out of that emotional hole.
Yeah.
So what I did, and I recommend this to anybody else really, is I heard music. Certain albums triggered the thought process of what was this individual thinking as they were writing this. Because certain albums just had a really emotional connection with me. Kind of like DS2 by Future. I don't know what, I'm just kidding. That was a joke.
No, I know, but that was a fire album. No,
it really was.
It was his best album.
Yeah. I agree. No, but certain albums, kind of like Mac Miller's self-care album.
Yeah, that was whack.
So I had to think like, damn, where are they drawing this from? Like, where are they getting these thoughts or like, whatever. And so the point is that I learned about emotional independence. I learned about finding personal positive affirmations, right? Because again, I didn't know that I had someone to go to, right? Even though I had already had Chris pray for me, and having through that moment, but I still wanted to do this on my own.
Yeah.
So one of those things was like appreciating what I have. Again, it's not everything, it's not the best, it's not the worst, but it's what kept me here, alive. It's what gave me the benefit of really not even needing a car at the time I was living downtown. It's what kept me in my budget. It's what allowed me to continue to go out and socialize. Like I started finding the positive in everything that I had, even if what I had wasn't a lot. But I made sure that I was working towards something that set me up to put me in a better position,
right?
To where I didn't have those struggles anymore that I had 2 or 3 years ago, or 4 years ago. Not just financial, but emotional, right? And again, like I go back to it, man, like meditation, and then just kind of looking, whether it's YouTube videos or reading books about like self-improvement, like read it, but don't just read it to have something to reference and like, like, oh, I saw this in this book one time, let me try it out. Like, no, if you're going to look at something that's supposed to help you improve, read it and apply it.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're just wasting your own time. And it's okay, if you don't understand the idea or the concept that's being discussed in said books or in YouTube videos, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But take the time to try to understand it.
Yeah.
Don't just read it and then put it down and, all right, keep it moving.
Yeah.
See, because I did that. I know. Like, I've had even some friends that you and I share mutually where they just don't understand, like, certain thought processes or like certain concepts about like how to deal with certain things that to me are like, because I've already been there and I've already practiced, like putting all of my ego aside and like my pride and just like, no, let me address this internally, get this out of the way and move on. I know I understand that a lot of people haven't, but because they haven't, they're either scared to or they don't know how. And in turn, they stay in the same place. That place can be misery, sadness, whatever the case may be. So, going back, I appreciate it. And I hope whoever hears this, don't just take that as like, he's complimenting me or some shit like that. Like, no, like, go actually like take that as a motivation to like go find something, to find some type of positive affirmations, find like YouTube videos or like some type of music that makes you happy. Like shit, I was listening to a lot of Michael Jackson in my personal renaissance. Just because, like, politics and dramas aside, you made really positive music.
Yeah.
Like, really positive.
Yeah.
Like, Rock With You. There was another one. I'm trying to think.
We Are the World.
That
Man in the
one.
Mirror.
You Are Not Alone.
Yeah.
And that one specifically,
Man
I
in
think
the
that
Mirror.
I think that one got everybody anyway. But you know,
Thriller. Yeah, that one changed the world.
It really did. Quite literally, dude. That's
No,
all.
it actually did.
Yeah, it
but the
actually
message
did.
really wasn't anything
Yeah, it
special.
really wasn't. Something about movies and wolves. But you know, I try to tell everybody, man, like, I encourage it because it makes all the difference, even if you don't know it. Like, it really makes a whole lot of difference to have, even if you have nobody else in your corner to tell you, man, you killing it today. You gotta be able to have that internal voice or develop it. You have to.
Yes.
Because if nobody does, nobody ever will. Like, they're not going to know how you feel because you don't express it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's okay to not express it because I'm sure a lot of people don't know how to do that or are too scared, whatever the case may be. But if you're in that position, put thoughts in your head that are reassuring to you.
Yeah.
Put things in your life that will provide you with positive feedback or some type of positivity to where you find, like, motivation in that positivity because it directly applies to you.
Dude, that's so accurate because I notice a clear difference of when I start my mornings off listening to either some sort of, like, motivational whether that's an audio book or whether that's just like these motivational speeches or whether that's the Bible, like the audio Bible, I notice a clear difference in my day and in my mentality of when I listen to that type of stuff versus whenever I go into it listening to just music or nothing at all.
Yeah.
Like, my day is drastically better whenever I prime myself or, like, condition myself in the morning by listening to something positive.
Yeah.
It makes a huge freaking difference.
It does. And there's a whole psychological thing behind that. And I remember 3 YouTube channels that I still watch now. One of them is for dating, but it's not because I'm applying dating. It's because I'm looking at his mentality and, like, how he thinks about certain things. So,
Totally get it.
Babe, if you're listening, don't get me wrong. Alpha Male Strategies. Yeah, I know. Alpha Male Strategies. He's extremely blunt. It's straight to the point. But his whole point is self-improvement. And his whole point is, like, one of his points is, or really instructions is, like, set yourself up to where you can thrive and be better without necessarily the validation of a female or needing the validation of a woman to think that you need a woman to improve or that you need to improve for a woman, right? Like, I think that idea can be applied to women too. Like, you don't need a man, quote unquote, if you want to be a non-traditional woman. You shouldn't need a man to thrive on your own. Otherwise, you'll be dependent. And, well, women, I know you know a woman that's dependent on men, and I'm sure you don't like that. So take from that what you will.
Yeah.
But the point is that you can apply that to both.
Yeah.
Another guy is Elliot something.
Holst.
Elliot Holst. Yeah.
Elliot Holst, yeah.
He's been preaching positivity and internal stuff for years.
But now he's actually been preaching. I think he recently gave his life to Christ. And I think he became a Christian recently, dude.
Really?
I just started watching his videos because I've been subscribed to him for years as well. But for some reason, he showed up in my news feed again. And he was talking about Jesus and giving your life to Christ. And I was like, way to freaking go, dude. Like, here you are, this alpha male, quote unquote. And I say quote unquote because, like, I think, like, his followers have definitely given him this alpha male title. Not saying that he's not an alpha male, because I think he actually is. If you're a man that's leading other men, you're an alpha male
by definition.
Yeah. So, but dude, I'm like, way to freaking go, dude. And his wife is not that fine. Like, I'm like, okay, like, but yet he's happy. I know that sounds some type of way, but it's like he's happy He's content with what he has. He could have many women lined up at his door just from his status alone. Like, he's also a good-looking dude, super muscular, makes big money, but he has wife and kids, and he's just content with a simple life to whatever extent he's capable of having a simple life despite his fame, you know?
Yeah. And
yeah, he's awesome.
The other guy, his name is E.T. the Hip Hop Preacher. And yeah, you may not know him. He's kind of dwindled down a lot. But I remember seeing the video that captured me and put me onto him.
Yeah.
Was in 2012. And he was talking about his experience as a collegiate student and how it took him like 15 years to get a bachelor's degree. But he was like, man, who the hell I was, like, when I first started this journey of wanting this degree isn't who you see now. I was bullshitting. Yeah. I was in some bullshit that I shouldn't have been in to begin with.
Yeah.
But because I gave myself the excuse of my past, I gave myself the excuse of my circumstances to think that I deserve to be where I am because this is where I come from and I don't deserve better.
Yeah.
Like, basically, he one of his catchphrases in that video was like, I had to stop for a second and think to myself, like, will the real Eric please stand up?
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck I am now is not who I am.
Right.
I want better. Yeah. I want to do better. I want to be better.
Yeah.
I want this fucking degree. So why don't I fucking get it?
Yeah.
Because I'm bullshitting.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And I'm bullshitting. I'm spending time on girls. I'm spending time on drugs. I'm spending time clubbing. I'm doing shit that I'm not supposed to be doing because I'm losing focus of my goal. Basically. And at the time, I had just graduated high school and I didn't understand it. Like, I was looking at this guy and I was like, okay, I guess. I mean, it makes sense. So, yeah, you know, an 18, 19-year-old kid, your father's not necessarily involved in your life. Yeah, having that level of guidance is kind of helping kind of steer you. But clearly it didn't work at the time because I did like all kinds of bullshit. So the point is, though, circled back 8, 9 years later. And through that personal renaissance, I heard his videos a lot. Sermons, Spotify account. And yeah, man,
he's just a motivational speaker?
Yeah, it's just motivational speaker, but it's not like motivational, like yes to everything or no, he preaches be aware and don't run from conflict.
Yeah, yeah.
But not conflict and not interpersonal conflict. It's personal conflict.
Right, yeah.
Within yourself.
Right.
Fight your vices. Fight yourself. Fight your inner demons.
Yeah.
Like, again, disabilities aside, I know depression is real. I know that ADHD is real. So I'm talking to the person that doesn't have disabilities, but you are where you are because of circumstance.
Yeah.
Like, you have the ability to pull the fuck out of whatever situation you're in, but you don't think you can because you've been conditioned to think because of your circumstances that you can't do it.
Right.
Really, what you need to realize is that to get out of your emotional hole, to get out of your financial hole, you're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices, both in your free time, personal time, even family time or relationship time. Like, when you got shit to do, you don't have time to bullshit.
Yeah.
And if you're bullshitting, you're never going to get anything done.
Yeah.
And then you're going to cry about it, but that's going to continue the cycle of bullshit. Right? So what are you going to do? You can either mope around, dwell on that negativity, or gather yourself, make a plan, gather your thoughts, make a move, and get it going. Do something. And again, like, just having these 3 sources of positivity or like positive reinforcement kind of like drilled in my head. Not like the image of being an alpha male or anything like that. Like, I don't personally give a fuck about that.
Yeah, right.
Like, it's fine and all, you know, for people,
Right.
man, guys that are insecure, go for it. I know
Yeah.
you need something to aspire to.
Yeah, well,
But-
yeah. I think it just fuels your insecurity.
I would agree,
Yeah,
because you're really not going to be entirely satisfied.
yeah,
But that aside, like, it helped me to develop the ability to drill positivity and drill motivation to my own mind. And now, if anybody were to request it, or even if they don't, somehow my mind always goes back to like the wording that comes out of my mouth is somehow like, we'll find a way, or like, I believe in you, or like, you know, like,
Mhm.
there's this girl, I don't know if she's comfortable with me saying her name on here, so Miss S, receptionist.
Okay.
If you hear this, I'm just trying not to say your name. That's just the title you have. But the one.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't even know her. I still don't really know her, but I'm cool with her.
Yeah.
She told me about this position she had applied for, and you know, she was just thinking about it, and she did it, and she was kind of like studying for it, and she was just telling me about it. She wasn't really asking for anything, but in my mind and in my heart, I was like, wow, like I could see maybe some doubt in her mind. I could see it in her voice. I could hear it, you know, the wording. I was hearing it. And so I just told her, I believe in you.
Mhm.
You got this.
Mhm.
You got it. You're smart. You're capable. You can do this.
Mhm.
You don't need my words, but know that I believe in you.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened after that, but what I'm getting at is that my mind is naturally programmed now to like say, you can do this.
Yeah.
Well, what's keeping you from this?
Yeah.
If it's something like kids, I understand, you know, again, disabilities, I understand. But if you have like a ton of free time, but little money, naturally, I'm going to tell you, you need to be working the second job. You need to be working the third job. You need to find a fucking way. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I allow people naturally, out of respect for their feelings and everything,
Mhm.
to tell me about the problem and how they feel this, and this. But always in my head, I'm just go back to, what are you going to do?
Mhm.
You know?
Mhm.
And if they give me the excuses that I just like, one thing I also learned from that, you know, Renaissance is you and I can have these conversations and people can hear them,
Yeah.
but we have to understand there's also a reality to that. The reality is that a lot of people won't ever practice it
Mhm.
because they're comfortable,
Yeah.
and excuses bring comfort
Yeah.
because you think that your excuses give you a circumstance that allow you to like, oh, it's understandable, so I get it, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You pander to yourself, essentially.
Right.
And when people start getting into that dialogue, I just kind of let them go on. And
Mhm.
when I see that they're not receptive to the conversation or what it is I'm trying to tell them, I just let them bury themselves.
Yeah.
And go for it. I encourage it. Go ahead, bury yourself. I want you to hit
Yeah.
rock bottom, because I want you to have your own self-realization of like, I want to do better.
Yeah.
So go for it. You know, it's extremely, you could say, toxic, because it's like, well, if somebody needs help and they don't know it, you should help them, I guess. But I don't find that to be a helpful strategy.
Yeah, no. I mean, even in 12-step, dude, like, I want to say it's the first step is acknowledging you have a problem. It's like you're not gonna fix your problem if you don't acknowledge that you have one in the first place.
Yeah.
And like you say, like people will make excuses, or they'll point fingers or whatever it is in order to feel comfortable, instead of just looking at, okay, what can I take responsibility of? And taking more responsibility for things is going to help you solve your problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It helps with internal struggle, and it also helps with circling back, enjoying your life.
Mm-hmm.
once you come to this place where, like I've talked about it on the last episode or 2 episodes ago, serenity.
Mhm.
Like, I may not get those 1000% serene moments where like everything's tranquil
Well,
and
yeah.
the fucking birds and I'm in the park and all that.
Yeah.
But I have a level of happiness that is consistent. Even if I don't have all the free time that I want,
Yeah.
I have what I need,
Yeah.
and that's all I want,
Yeah.
you know? But it took, rock bottom for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Oh God. Yes. Same.
Yeah.
I think in life you reach multiple rock bottoms in different areas in order to actually mature in that area. I think rarely do people not have to experience a rock bottom in order for them to get it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, just look at hunger. It's like if we never got hungry, we would likely not eat. But because of the pain that hunger causes, it inspires us to eat.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's our rock bottom. Like that's the metaphor for the rock bottom. It's like that pain that we experience from hitting our rock bottom either inspires us to go out there and eat, meaning go out there and do what you know that you're supposed to do
Yeah.
and get your nourishment, or I guess just suffer away and woe is me and
Yeah.
oh, it's not fair that my life is this way,
Yeah.
and then you just wither away and die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I have this level of happiness because I put myself in a position to where I can enjoy this happiness and be happy for what I have. And I also program myself to be able to do that,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean that literally. Like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was a literal writings on my wall, on my
Yeah.
mirror, and
Yeah.
on my phone, daily reminders. Like, it was programming, setting the schedule, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
I had a schedule even though nobody told me to set one up.
Yeah.
I had things to look at and listen to and think of that allowed me to reprogram myself.
Mm-hmm.
I had a literal schedule. I didn't talk to anybody for certain times. I didn't do anything for certain things because my focus was on myself and on, finances, emotions, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And thank you again, man. It's strange to hear the recognition
Mm-hmm.
because it's not something that I look for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of like going about my life and just moving it, and if my friends get that from me and like can somehow implement that into their own lives, and that's exactly what I want. That's again going back to like the purpose of this podcast. Like, we're not just doing this because we have the need to talk to each other. We've done that for years.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we want to help people think outside of their paradigm,
Yeah.
think outside of their own thought process, and to just kind of dwell and rethink themselves, rethink and repurpose, really.
Yeah.
At least that's what I would want.
Yeah. I mean, not like we have it all together or
No.
anything like that, but I mean, there's people that have it worse off than us mentally. And it's like whatever sort of help that I can give, it's like I might as well give, and I know you feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you don't got to be a millionaire to help out somebody who has less finances than you,
Yeah.
and it's like we're not millionaires of happiness or millionaires of success, or millionaires of mental health either. Yeah, of course, millionaire is like a analogy, right? Okay,
Yeah.
but it's like we can still be a blessing to people with whatever sort of strength that we do have. So
Yeah.
hopefully somebody. Well, we know one person because they've told us that this podcast has helped them out, and they do deal with mental health issues, and they expressed to us that they feel like they have friends to whenever they're listening to this podcast. They
Yeah.
don't feel as alone. They don't feel like they're as caught up in their head when they're listening to the podcast. So it's
Yeah.
like, even if we only help out that one person through the podcast, at least we're making a difference, you know?
We did our job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a blessing.
Yeah, definitely. You know, sidebar, but along the same subject. I think I referenced this or said this earlier on in one of the episodes, but we talked about like if I get to a certain age and I don't have kids and I don't get married, I'm just gonna dedicate my life to helping younger generations improve
Yeah.
and helping kids or teenagers like
Like a Big Brother program type of way?
yeah,
Yeah.
type. You know, I want to like that'll be the purpose of my life. I'm perfectly content with that.
Mm.
Because even if I didn't, whatever, if I lost everything, that's what I would want to do. Just
Yeah.
help the next generation.
Yeah.
Help them to be better than I was. Help them to be better than their parents was. Or if they didn't have parents, help them to be the best they can be.
Yeah.
That way they don't have to go through certain things that
Yeah.
life throws your way.
Yeah, same.
And I always, I always drive by these like signs. I'm 45 going north, and they always have like the lottery numbers and like the amount of what's the next, bag or whatever the case may be. And there's always this thought process in my mind, like, man, I don't think I want that.
Yeah.
The reason why is if I did get it one day, I think you're more likely of getting struck by lightning than winning the lottery. But the point is that I would be doing like Jeff Bezos' ex-wife. Dude, she's donated $8 billion. Donated.
Nice.
Yeah. But I would be putting that money to use for like generations. Like obviously I take care of my family, but I've completely thought about this. I would be opening up schools to help lower income students and then mid-teen, middle class, lower class, poor, third ward, fifth ward, like all these different areas, and to help fucking kids, male, female, even parents, like everyone improve their lifestyle. I may not give you money, but I'm going to give you the knowledge to, improve.
Yeah.
That way your family doesn't have to be tarnished with the horrible habits that your ancestors developed due to circumstance,
Yeah, man. I wish that school. Well, I don't know. People. There's agendas behind everything.
Oh yeah.
But I wish that school taught us how to have a healthy mind. Of course, I'm talking about like not physically, but like how to actually work through problems effectively, how to think. But you could arguably say that's not the responsibility of the school. That's the responsibility of parents. But when you have parents that are still children in their minds,
Yeah.
because they lack maturity, it's like, what do you expect the children to be? They're going to be immature too, because they have no good example leading them. But I wish that I don't know, dude. I wish that love was the driver behind things rather than wealth and status and stuff like that. But it's unrealistic. Like this world is
Way too vain, really.
yeah, I mean, which I understand it. It feels good.
Yeah.
It feels good to be prideful. It feels good to flaunt whatever it is that you have so that you feel superior to people. Like choosing the low road doesn't feel good. It just is good. Whereas choosing the high road feels good, but ultimately is unsatisfying because you still feel empty because you never have enough. And it's like going back to what I said. It's like I'll deal with feeling like I don't have enough or I'm not where I need to be or whatever it is. And in a way, it's a good thing because it motivates me to keep going. But there's a toxic aspect to that way of thinking,
Yeah.
And yeah, like I do wish that that there was more of a focus on developing good human beings rather than obtaining wealth or just teaching irrelevant things that you'll never really use in your life.
Yeah. You know,
I'm not saying that school's not good as it is to a certain extent, because
Yeah.
I do see a lot of benefit. I wish I would have paid attention in algebra class more.
yeah.
But whatever. Too late.
You know, that's actually the professor kind of enlightened me to that. It's a guy that we both know. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to. I want to respect his privacy.
Mhm.
But he basically said, if you're bad at math, it's not necessarily your fault. You were born that way. So some people are use their left brain more, and some
Yeah.
people use their right brain more.
Yeah.
So like, even if you studied all day, you still wouldn't grasp certain concepts the same way that other people would, simply because of that's your biology. It is what it is. That's how you were born.
To a certain degree, I mean, to a certain degree, I agree, and then to a certain degree, I don't agree. Like, I do agree that we're genetically predispositioned to go in a certain route, and that certain people, especially if they're using, let's say, the right hemisphere of their brain more, they're naturally going to be more creative. And if you use the left hemisphere of the brain more, you're going to naturally be inclined toward science and mathematics and data and more practical means of living. But that's why we have the two hemispheres, is because it's not like just because you're a right brain individual and you naturally have this predisposition to think in creative ways that are, or in an abstract way, it doesn't mean that you're not capable of using your left brain. So I believe that, I think that if you really have a desire to learn anything and you work at it enough, you may not be a mathematician, but you're going to get better at it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's true with, as far as I'm able to understand anything. I think that that's true with anything, that if you really that dedicated to learning something, you'll learn it. You're going to at least grow in understanding of it,
I got that.
I
You know,
think.
While you figure out if you're left or right brain,
Mhm.
just remember to slow down. And like, you know, it doesn't matter if you make $20,000 a year and live at home. It doesn't matter if you make $50,000 a year and you have your own apartment downtown. It doesn't matter if you make $100,000 a year and are perfectly happy. You know, try to take a moment, stop for a second, and think about what you have
Mhm.
and appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's okay to want more. It's perfectly fine. If you're going to take that and, you know, say, well, yeah, I like what I have now, but I want more, that's perfectly fine. But appreciate and learn from the wisdom of the guy that we started the conversation with.
Mhm.
And the guy had it all, clearly.
Yeah.
But the one thing that he learned to appreciate now in the end is the thing he had from the beginning,
Yeah.
his family.
Yeah.
The things that are nearest to his heart and to his conscience,
Yeah.
not the things that are financially attainable.
Yeah.
Even though they are a comfort now in the end,
Yeah.
that's not what brings him happiness, you
Yeah.
know. And with that being said, I appreciate all of you that listen to this podcast.
Yes.
I'm grateful for your input, you know, and I look forward to hearing more people tell me about their experience hearing this, whether it's a good experience or a bad experience,
Mhm.
because I want to know like what takes and like what's being understood and what conversations are being had after hearing the information that is being discussed on this podcast, you know.
Yeah.
But those are my final thoughts on that. You?
Yeah. Absolutely. And if you have a differing opinion on stuff and you want to join the podcast, let us know. Maybe we can get you on and we might learn something, or hopefully you might learn something regardless. Like we'll grow from it, because I mean, it's like what he was saying, like celebrate the differences, because you'll learn from the differences in people.
Yeah.
So just throwing that out there.
Yeah. I already have some guests in mind anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But hit us up or leave a comment. Say, hey, motherfuckers, I got beef with y'all. Let's get it on.
Or just like, hey, Clinton, Mario, I disagree on what you said, and I'd like to talk about this with you.
Yeah, that's probably the better way to go about it.
Because I don't think I really want to talk to you if you come in with that much energy.
Well, I don't mind it. But
Yeah,
anyway,
that's cool. I mean, I just don't prefer my day to go that way.
Yeah, I agree, especially at night.
Yeah.
Anyway, with that being said, thank you for being here. Like, comment, subscribe, share. This is Mario.
And Clint.
We're out.